two,
Yep.
one. All right. We are recording back in the saddle. Mr. Andrew McCarthy. I'll put his Twitter in the description. But yeah, if you can't tell, we're recording really quickly. He just showed me. So describe what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm in Washington D.C. right now, using a friend's office for the podcast, and I just think we should bring this live. I'm just gonna. This is the current state of things in Washington D.C.
What, an Iranian flag protest?
We have women in burqas, totally blacked out.
Okay.
Hussein is for everyone. Is one of the signs I'm reading.
Hussein is for everyone.
Hussein, inheritor of Moses. So this is a pro-Iranian protest in the midst of all of the anti-Iranian protests out of Iran. So this is our country showing its affection in the nation's capital for
dictatorships, for theocratic dictatorships.
For theocratic, yeah, for
and
the most extreme and most organized Muslim extremist government in the history of the world.
I'm half expecting for the feed to get cut short, just see half a frame of explosion, and that's just the end of Andy. And then
guys barge in.
Yeah, and then all the windows are gonna shatter, and next thing I know, it's gonna be a grainy video of you in a cave and someone with a rusty machete.
Yeah, so how wild was that, huh?
Yeah, what the fuck was that? Yeah, what the fuck? And did they have like a rope around them all? It looked like they were roped in, like as they moved.
Yeah, it's kind of what's going on. They're being herded like cattle. No pun intended. I mean, this is literally.
I know, but that's kind of the irony. Is like they're not showing anything, not even toes. They don't want to be haram.
They're barely showing their face. Yes, no toes, of course. They have kids out here holding signs. Of course, they don't know what that means. The men are beating their chests in a very
primitive
way. Yeah, let's go the way. I didn't want to use that term, but let's go.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, this is something else. So we're gonna have to continue while this scrolls by, but I wanted to bring that in because it's a great way to kick things off, I guess.
Yeah. No, I don't give a shit about using the term primitive. Anyone that hey, if you're wearing a burqa and you're beating your chest and you have women roped in, you're primitive. I don't give a shit if you're Muslim or black or if you look like me, a white neo-Nazi. That's primitive. That's primitive.
And you have to understand, we're in DuPont Circle. This is probably some of the most advanced tech startups. You have, of course, lobbying interest groups. You have the military industrial complex. Like anything you think about contemporary DC,
I would love
in the Western world, like is happening right by. But this is something to behold. We're going to do one more.
Dude, go for it. No, this is fantastic.
Isn't this crazy?
What are they? Yeah. So chanting and beating their chest. For anybody listening, you should be watching. And we got somebody sneaking out of the rope.
Yeah, little kids are getting out of line here. They're going to be roped back in.
They're going to see you, and it's going to be like 28 days later. They're just going to start running and screaming.
I'll try and stay focused with this going on, but I thought that's a great.
No, I don't give a shit, dude. I don't know how. I don't know how. I don't think we're going to be able to talk about anything else because I'm now fixated. Is this the equivalent of like spring break though for them that they're showing their faces? Is this fucking going wild?
Ironically, they already have a pretty good tan going, so they have a good base.
Yeah. But you're not supposed to show the face, right? The real hardcore, they put like that weird kind of screen mesh. It's like a cloth mesh over the face.
They're kind of LARPing. They're not doing exactly like their brotherhood and sisterhood is. But yeah, here we are, man. Let's catch up and now act as if that's not.
If that's just not going on. What'd be kind of funny though is like, how Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are like all on board with like the gay pride thing, and it's like it's just another corporation just shilling their, which I mean in a way is kind of beautiful about America. They don't give a fuck, just give us your money. It'd be kind of funny if like Grumman and Raytheon were like had like a float behind them or something.
Yep.
And there's keep our contracts coming.
Keep it's like the Macy's Day Parade of wokeness behind me.
Yeah, no, but it'd be great if it was behind this specific Iranian protest. If they're just like if they're just all outside, just like there's someone from Grumman peeking through the shades right now, and they're going, "Honey, I'm getting you a new Phantom for Christmas." Like, These fuckers are gonna set off a bomb, and we're gonna make 10 times in Q4.
These guys at Raytheon are working on Sundays over here.
Oh,
They're popping
baby.
out emails like, "Hey, let's keep the plans to get a new bathroom going."
Absolutely, dude. They're putting in puts. They're like, hey, this economy's turning around. It ain't dead yet. This thing's gonna now it's gonna cost us one Andrew McCarthy because
Yep,
you're in the blast zone.
I'll be
Um,
gone for
yeah,
sure.
you'll be gone. Hey, and you know what? That will be great for me. I will get a viral view, and you can't make an omelet, Andy, and I'm sorry. But
You got to crack, right?
hey man, for God and country. But yeah, okay, we'll try not to think about the 4000 BC protest going on behind you. Um but yeah, for anyone that for the because you came on, I want to say like February or something. It's been a minute.
It's a while
Hey,
back, yeah.
introduce yourself, man, to everyone that maybe hasn't listened to the last podcast.
Yeah. Well, I think I should introduce what initially brought me in. I was running for Congress at the time. Um, that was interrupted actually by not so distant threat going on behind us. I can't really bring in the context of what I do.
Sure.
I'm an intelligence analyst for Space Force. Be a Space Force officially this spring, but what we do is sort of, look at America posturing and our connectivity above the terrestrial arena, and we make sure that we're competing, of course, in a non-offensive way, but in a defensive posture, and textbook definition of what the Space Force does. But that's what I do, and I'm a reservist. I was called up this spring that sort of interrupted my plans in running for Congress. But hey, like you said, you can't make an omelet, and I think
Yeah.
the long term, it's not the worst thing that could happen to me. I'm a pretty young guy, so could always run again. We'll see if there's a New York left to represent by that time, whether it's a couple years from now or 10 years down the road. We'll see, but that's a little bit about me. Air Force vet. I do intel. My unit focuses mainly on space. So with the creation of Space Force a few years ago, we've shifted our whole mission set. And this spring, when they set up the reserve and guard capacity of Space Force, the official capacity, then will be absorbed into them. We're like the last sliver of the Air Force that focuses on space that isn't officially Space Force. So that's what I do. We work with a bunch of 3 letters in DC in the Beltway, and out of New York State. So I'm in the New York Guard. I should probably have included that. And what there's a couple space bases up there that all sort of supplement the same mission down here. We support NRO, NGA, some of the bigger players in geospatial intelligence and of course space comms. So that's a little bit about what I do. My background's in international trade policy, international commerce, and focusing on national security. So it kind of links up well with everything going on right now. Everything's sort of hitting the fan at the same time. So I find myself in a pretty unique position. So.
Do you think that you are going to run again, or is it because I get the feeling that you weren't expecting to have your race cut short, or you are? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the
No,
plan.
no, 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 no. I certainly I wouldn't even have, it takes so much money,
Yeah,
time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears to do all that stuff. So that was sort of a rude interruption. But bigger picture, I mean, like I couldn't be happier right now. So with everything going on, I kind of look back on it. It feels like it was years ago, but it happened at the end of April of this year. I got orders early April, kind of, obviously tried to push back on having to be the guy that every squadron sends a few people, every unit sends a few people for our specific mission. So we tried to reshuffle that deck, and we couldn't get it done. But I don't know if I'll ever run again. But I will tell you, I was reluctant at first to go on orders, but I've been in Germany since then. I'm down here in the nation's capital. I finished up my orders last week, so now I got to kind of figure out what I want to do with life, and that may or may not include working in the said space, the said national security posture that I'm in full time. So I don't know what I want to do now, but it has been a blast since then, of just hitting the ground running, not really looking back on the campaign. Politics has been so crazy in all these individual races throughout the country and within New York State. So actually, a couple people that stood up in regional races in New York, I was excited about. They didn't get through their primaries, and you're seeing that sort of all over the country. There was guys I was excited about that didn't make it, and then some people that did. So it's been a crazy year generally. There's been a lot of redistricting generally. So like anything that people thought would have been about what was going on a year ago, even without my situation, everything sort of got turned on its head. So Republican politics is sort of upside down right now. It's still trying to figure the Republican Party out, which is totally cucked. But in terms of like the base is still trying to get some representation, and it's been a struggle. This was supposed to be the big red wave year, and it still might be on paper, but I don't think it's the caliber of the individuals that a lot of people expected this time last year. So I guess I say that to say I'm in a really good position professionally and career wise, spiritually, physically. It was a sort of a good reset. If you have to get kicked out of a race, better that than a lot of other ways.
Sure.
And there's there's plenty of time on the clock. If I stay in the game, stay healthy, there's no reason why I couldn't run again. I have no idea when that would be, but I'm in a good space. So I think with all of that being said, a lot of Republican voters are just a little underwhelmed with the products that have made it through the primaries so far. There's some good people out there, but like I said, it's just been a wild year for everyone. So even without this interruption, who knows what would have happened, to be honest with you.
Yeah. In terms of like, expectations from a year ago till now, I can only apply like my own life experiences. I have to imagine it's something like getting podcast guests where sometimes you just get on this, like, sometimes you just nail one. You just get a response from someone that you were not gonna. For me, the biggest one ever was when Charlie Duke, the youngest man to walk on the moon, emailed me back and said, sure. And I was like, but then you'll go 3 months without getting a single. I just Before this podcast, when I was waiting, I was just going through emails. Hey, thank you for the reply. I understand. No worries, man. Thank you. That's what it is every day.
What about Dr. Malone? He had to be top 5.
Yeah, that one was very difficult to get. That was one where I was harassing him nonstop, and finally, I don't know how I got like a number. Like I think it was his. Since then, that number doesn't work anymore. But I left him a voicemail at like 3 a.m. and yeah, he got back to me when I was walking to the gym. I was July 1st last year. I was walking to the gym and I was like, who is this? And it's like, this is Miss Malone, who's also Dr. Malone. She's like, Robert can do it in 30 minutes. And I just beelined going to the gym and I was like, I'll be there. And that one was crazy. Ken Albeck, the first deputy director of the Soviet bioweapons program, that was nuts. But my point is you can get, those are really great morale boosters and you get all psyched. And then sometimes what's even crazier is, kind of like celebrities die in threes, you'll get big guests in threes, and it's this huge ego inflation. You're like, it's fucking working, here we go. And then what you'll get is you'll be juggling 10 other ones, and then 10 others will all say no. And then you get to the other side where you should be psyched because now you're having Dr. Malone, Dr. Albeck, Charlie Duke, and you can't help but go, I wanted all 13 of them. But it's happened so many times now that I go, hey, you throw this huge net, you're going to get really excited. You see it because you see 1,000 fish in the net. Don't get upset when only 10 come in, because you shouldn't look at it as you lost 990 fish, but rather understand that it takes an entire 1,000 fish to get 10. So
I think you just did a great comparison of where we were last year to now. I mean, like, it looked like there was this class of 20 odd really based people, for lack of a better term, but just, and I hate to use the term fighter because that's like what every like conservative uses. I'm a fighter. I'm a mom that fights or whatever.
I'm a patriot who won't back down. Yeah, shut up.
And it turns out being like Dan Crenshaw. But no. So it's just like that. And as things whittle away over the year, and then you get these left field things like my scenario, but you'll end up with a couple. The good thing is we ended up with like Joe Kent and Blake Masters. I think JD Vance is going to be good. And there are a few others in the House side of things. So if we end up with 10 and 2 of those being U.S. senators, I think it's a good run, and that's on an off year. So God only knows what we can push through in the next 4 to 6 years. But that, like a lot of other things, though, whether it's domestic politics or anything else, I think the window's closing on. Like, I don't want to be black pill here because I think my last year of my life's been super white pill. Like I even with the race happening and the way it did, everything else sort of on ramped into an amazing year for me. But I'm sort of seeing the window close on things internationally, pressure from China, the economy's collapsing, just a lot of ingredients within the cornucopia of globalism that are sort of closing the window for the American dream here. And I hate to be so black pill on a Sunday, but that's kind of what's going on. So, politics aren't the answer to this, or elected representatives aren't necessarily the answer to all of these things. So I don't want to like stick on that drumbeat, but it's like all of the cornerstones of what we need to have an American society that's even remotely familiar, unlike the parade that we saw earlier. Like, you need to have a solid class or core of elected officials. You need to have a military with coherent strategy and that could actually execute on a tactical level. You need to have elements of your government like a strong dollar. These are just like fundamental ingredients, right? And I think it was always the highfalutin stuff that we had to worry about when there's like not a war going on, like debt and stuff like that. But now we're looking at like the cornerstones of governance, and the cornerstones of what makes up America are kind of being whittled away. So that's why I say the window's closing on some of the more institutional ingredients of what we need to maintain.
Sure. Yeah, it does seem to be that there are normally these quote unquote luxury issues that you never realize are luxury until they're in the rearview mirror. Pro-choice or pro-life, or fucking net neutrality, or we need new EV vehicles, or should we go to Mars? And
Yep.
those seem really intense at the time. Should we pass Obamacare? And then you start looking back and you're like, hey, should we reel in inflation? Should we not be mandating these mRNA death vaccines? Should we not be
Exactly.
creating a disinformation governance board, which is one letter off from KGB? I know that sounds like a boomer meme, but still, DGB, KGB, a little odd. And you're like, should we be laundering $1/10 trillion to Ukraine? Are we going to send men and women to the shores of Taiwan? That's when you start going, there are some foundational things that are
Yep.
shifting. That,
Yep.
but to not be black pilled, because I have to try to stay up and optimistic. Sometimes you need something like this that kind of I hate the term waking up, because people have been using it for 300 years. People are waking up. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, no one's
But
waking up.
to use that term, sometimes you need to jolt shit around to get people up. Sometimes the people that I don't even vote, I don't give a shit. Well, now that a chicken breast costs $9, you have a lot of people out there going, I might go vote this year. That's
You
the
know,
only upside.
the old school sort of clearing of the board, resetting of everything. It was just like, we need a war, like World War II, like, re-energize
Realign the economy.
the American economy, the manufacturing base, like put everything in perspective in terms of survivability of the human race, and sort of like going back to, like, not to be too neocon here, but like some of the values that when they were values, they've sort of just been aborted. But like some of the values that, like, man, will we be able to have a democracy? And now you can't even use that anymore, because you sound like when you turn on MSNBC, like, democracy's at threat, or democracy's at threat. It's like, that's just the filler for, like, let's just go send money to Ukraine. So you can't even use some of the terminology that used to have meaning. But we always used to go to, like, let's just kick off the war, and that'll galvanize people. And I think that was, but it started when the American press started covering Vietnam, and some of that era's documents got declassified. And then, of course, when 9/11 happened, it just spurred us to go into places like Iraq and really throughout North Africa and in the Middle East for no good reason. And this became, with the news cycle, this became very evident to the American people that we were using wars to sort of reshuffle things and get things back in order on a domestic level. Then you can't really go to, like, well, we need war with China to figure things out. That'll stop purple-haired weirdos from saying this and focusing on the wrong issues domestically, these issues that you were talking about. But, like, we can't even go to that anymore, because everything looks like a psyop, And I think we're not ready for a war with China or something to that caliber. But that's the only thing I could think of, because Russia's not really a threat. So, at least in like a near peer competitor, Russia's not. Yeah, near peer competitor, but just not. They have nuclear weapons, and without those and hypersonics, we wouldn't be having the conversation.
Yeah.
And of course, without the media that gave you coronavirus, that is lobbied by the same military industrial complex, the same medical industrial complex. Like, the reason you get the news output that we do, that even has things like Russia or COVID on the map, is because people need to sell something. So I don't even know if a war would do it for us anymore, because those have been sort of abducted and psyoped into something that they're not like organic wars anymore. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not, it is, it's terrible to say, but it's not a good old World War II. Like
Exactly. No, it is what it
it's
is.
yeah, a Vietnam, a war on terror doesn't really do it. And even, it sounds bad that like I'm even like entertaining this in my mind. We just do sound like the Bill Hicks-esque cigars in the back room, like should we whack Kennedy? But I mean, it almost looks like the most peaceful option to any sort of a stable world is a Cold War with China.
Well, we're in the Cold War, but I think what I was referring to is like a hotter or
I
hotter.
I know that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking at
But
like,
no, yeah, no, and it's really like we don't sound like Bill Hicks and those guys because this has been happening for millennia. Whenever you
yeah,
feel the encroachment of a rising power, and you're sort of the, if this and you're the, I guess in our case, declining power or just stable power. Whenever you feel that drumbeat on your doorstep, this has happened for millennia. So this is nothing conspiratorial or new. This is people butting heads or cultures butting heads, and there could only be number one. So I don't think it's too crazy. It's just that now that, and that's the organic way of those processes developing is hegemony and control, and whether it's trade routes or whether it's like it could be uh, minerals, it could be whatever it might be. People went to war usually for economic gains or for capital of some sort, or human capital. Could have been anything, but the organic process has been taken out. So I think when we finally have to do what we have to do with China, people are going to be so disillusioned that the fervor of an actual organic competition will and I think China's already like, people hear about China so much in the Cold War sense, and I'm talking about like super normie people, that they're like, China doesn't affect us. It's just something that you hear about. You know what I mean? Like I don't think anyone really grasps the actual threat of their lifestyle or the American way of life being under threat from an external power. I don't think anyone really understands that, because if you're a normie and you're not tuned into podcasts like this, or have a top secret security clearance and running around on the high side researching this stuff, then you're just living your life and you hear about China. You're probably more concerned with Russia. You don't really know. Like there's no barometer for what an actual threat is, because the contrived threats, the manufactured threats, are thrown at you in this news cycle and with these screens on such a rampant pace that when something of actual concern comes along the way, what does that mean to a normal person? So I don't think these organic processes really of going to war really exist anymore.
yeah, I mean, and for good reason. I mean, right? You look at a Vietnam, and then our generations is the global war on terror. I mean, in a lot of senses, I mean, I have a lot of friends that were, active combat, with missing limbs, who have just crippling PTSD.
Yep.
And I mean, you look at Joe Kent, I mean, his wife, the literal mother of his children. You look at a lot of them, you're like, man, if the war fighters I know are going, yeah, I don't want another war, how are the normies going to be like, let's get on board? And there may be some truth to that. I think, and this is again is a tired drum to beat. I it all comes down to if whether or not there's election integrity, because like as stupid as like the average person is, there also is like responses to, like, there's market changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
People shifting to a touchscreen iPhone in 2005. Like there are shifts, and there are a lot of people who will never say it. They'll never say I voted for Trump. They'll never utter those words, but they're going, I can't afford green beans. I can't afford bread. There are people that will go vote for the guy that's saying to return this. It all comes down to, because people, you're told, we just went through a huge COVID psyop, and a lot of people are, even the normies are starting to go, oh, fuck, it really wasn't that bad. I really didn't need this vaccine. There are people that are at least smart enough to go, I can now buy less video games than I could last month because fucking White Claw is double the price. Those are people that will go vote for those, quote unquote, those luxury issues. I didn't pay
Right.
attention to geopolitics in college, but I was pre-med and I wanted my full paycheck. So I went
Yep.
and voted for Romney in 2012 after voting for Obama in 08. I was like, at least I know that much. If
That's a
the
great
election
example.
process, what?
That's a great example.
Yeah, well, if the election process does work, and there's always going to be cheating, that's again dawn of time. then I'm confident that at the very least, and no one will say it, the exit polls will all be wrong, but people will vote for a DeSantis or a Trump or whatever. If they've managed to button down control of that, then then we're approaching the event horizon of a black hole. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's no coming back from that, because the same. I mean, if you just look at the recent contested issues, they stop at that federal level, or the courts essentially say what will be permissible to talk about and what
Yeah.
won't be. So, like, the courts have total control of that. Of course, those are individuals that are also being controlled. So there's so much human nature involved in this, and I think what both sides have done is, and sort of the uniparty, I guess we should speak to who's in control of the federal judiciary. What the uniparty did in terms of, and I don't even care how many people Trump put on the benches, because they all abandoned him when the time came. They won't even, and I'm not saying you need to do it with what Trump says because he put you in the court. I'm saying you need to hear a case, you need to hear evidence, to see if it can go in front of in front of the larger process. But that wasn't even happening. And some of these governors, I mean, all of the people that backstabbed him, that wouldn't even hear out whatever the individual cases were in Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona, Pennsylvania, that were just obvious that we need to have a legal conversation about, and there needs to be an investigation on. And those people abandoned him. So when I say the uniparty sort of controls the federal judiciary, it's and of course the governors, it's because you can run someone as on the left or the right, but at the end of the day, if you're a governor of a state, you're not, unless you're like Kathy Hochul or DeSantis, right? Those are people that govern truly differently, and they have different philosophies, and their philosophies actually come into play when they're governing. But other than that, you're looking at, like, Republicans run a budget one way, Democrats run a budget another way. And then everything's the same, which includes the control of your state judges and federal judges. The uniparty that gets those people elected would rather see an election just go by the wayside to get the ball rolling again on revving up the engines and revving up the donations and all the money that goes into the process, rather than get to the bottom of it. I hope Trump, if he runs, when he runs again, is smart enough to have a long list of the people that left him at the altar for investigating actual election integrity. But more importantly, I hope DeSantis is taking notes that if he runs, that the uniparty is not. We need to go get the illusions that the uniparty is somehow going to protect you at some point when you're under the gun needs to be abandoned. So if DeSantis runs, he has to abduct as much of the MAGA machinery as possible, and really keep his circle tight, because I think he's a little bit more savvy than Trump is politically. He's a professional politician. Trump sort of hopped into things, right? And that it's never like he had time to get his legs underneath him. I mean, he's been running since, it feels like he's still on the 2015 wave. Like there's just been a shift of personnel. Like, you don't have time to slow down and take a day off and restructure your organization. So if DeSantis does this, he can't be reliant at all on any of the institutions that exist. He needs to go in heavy-handed and revamp and wipe out all of them. And if he's called out for doing so, he needs to take what comes with that. But I think he's got such a strong resume that he has a better shot of doing that than Trump. It could get ugly if Trump first off, just to clear the air, a Republican's going to win the next presidential election if everything, like you said, is above, is on the up and up. But it's going to be two way different guttural reactions. I think that what's left of independence will give DeSantis a chance, and you will have a country that has its back to the wall on so many of these issues that Democrats have fucked up. So I think he's really going to have a chance to govern, and you might see more of like a Reagan-esque opportunity to unify and move forward. Yeah, I could be. Who knows what the left has in store for either of these people? But I think if Trump gets back in, you're going to see, even if it's people that understand COVID was a joke and that the economy's shit, there's something about this Trump derangement syndrome that's going to kick back full force. It's deep. I don't know what that's going to look like for 4 years of Trump, and I don't know how effective he's going to be, because it's going to be next level, compared to what we saw before and all of that. They pulled out all the stops before. I can only imagine what they have in line for the next Republican president. But
yeah, no, I mean, you got to tip your hat to whether it's Langley or Beijing, whoever did it. I mean, Trump derangement system is fucking. That is the culmination of 70 years of MK Ultra research. I mean, they
100%.
foaming at the mouth. I mean, it's bad, but I mean, I gotta respect the game. Like it is good.
Yeah,
They
that was Apex MK Ultra, and
that was
really, it's they managed to thread the needle on cord cutters and cable news. I thought they did a great job with cable news.
it was
So
great.
like when you look at MSNBC specifically, because they kind of took over CNN, people are tuned in and just eating out of the they're it's like a heroin addict. Like they go in for their hit despite ratings, and they stay insane. They stay addicted to this stuff. Have you ever tuned into an MSNBC broadcast?
No,
Oh, you need to.
I won't.
It's MK Ultra. It's you're seeing fake news. Nothing's really happening. It's a false reality.
Yeah.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like the apex of all of that coming together. They did a great job. But I think the realities of the world, like you said, when you notice that your White Claws go up 40% or whatever it might be, or like you can't bartend your way through college anymore. Like they're like there used to be things that you could do, or some young lady can't strip her way through college anymore, whatever it might be. But like all these things that used to be ingredients of like kind of getting by and staying off the radar, people are being forced on the government systems, and they're having government forced down their throat on such an uncomfortable level that even normies are going to have to wake up and just be like, this is, we didn't sign up for this. And it has nothing to do with what they did sign up for. So even if you want to use some of the leftist tropes of like equality and LGBTQ stuff, and which is all still MK Ultra stuff, but let's just give it credit for a second and play along. They didn't even get any of that stuff. They just got Biden, who is like the most unwoke dude, sort of stumbling out these big government policies that are more, they have nothing to do with any of the issues, right or left. It's just, it feels like every week we're like, what new government programs being created? How much are we spending? Where are we blatantly doing all the things that we used to do undercover, like with Ukraine? That used to just be under the radar, rinsing money. Like
Yeah.
I think it reminds me that the start of this was the pallets of gold and hundreds of millions of dollars
Iran.
to Iran, and I was like, they think they could just get away with this stuff now.
Yeah. 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 There is something so insane. Like you wonder what would Carlin or Hicks say if they just saw Clapper like sitting there on CNN. It's like the guys in the old white men in the suits, they're not even pulling the strings from like a shell company in some industrial park. They're just sitting at the big platinum desk with makeup on, just saying, we gotta fund Sri Lanka. We gotta get in there. Chevron has got some idea. Like the mask is just coming off more and more. You got to wonder, is it because they're so close to just solidifying global control, or is it because they're being backed into a corner and they're throwing a Hail Mary?
Well, they were doing this even when they weren't in the. I mean, when Obama was running the show, it wasn't too much different. And frankly, with the Bushes too, I mean, Bolton is the version of that on the right, where he'll come on a podcast to this day and just be like, "Look, we have to consider using tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine as a response to Russia." I'm like, what are we talking about right now? Like we're just casually rolling that out. What was a good one I saw the other day? There's some that they even forget that like the veil is down and that they can't do. It was General Hayden, former CIA director.
Yeah, NSA, CIA.
Yeah, CIA. He tweeted, and I think his location was on, and it was from like McLean, Virginia, or Langley, Virginia. And I'm like, dude, you take the location off.
Yeah, but then you got to wonder, are they that stupid or is it competent? I mean, these guys live in the shadows. You got to wonder. I mean, is there an
Well,
intent behind it?
actually, since we're on that, and I know I brought it up, but like I kind of thought about that, and I think there was like the third layer to it where he was like, anybody that's remotely in the know, I'm going to rub your nose in the fact that I'm doing this. When they do little stuff like, let's leave the location on, because it's like, this isn't just me guiding the normies in a true MK Ultra fashion. This is me with anyone with half a brain saying, we don't give a fuck that you
Demoralization.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's General Nakazone coming out and saying we're doing offensive operations in Russia from Ukraine. Like that's the head of the NSA for anyone that doesn't know.
Yeah.
Like that's people are like, you're not supposed to say that. And I'm like, the head, I mean, you got to go through like an EMP scanner Faraday box just to like park your car. Like they didn't accidentally say that. Like they didn't
Yeah.
read Shadow Factory by James Bamford. That book's 20 years old and it will melt your brain. Like none of that's by accident. And so it is just this weird psyops under and then you know I'm very openly a Trump supporter, so I have to try to like stay aware. I always have to like look in the mirror and be like, am I as goofy as the people screaming like Trump is literally Hitler? So I always have to try to. So whenever I play devil's advocate, there's a bunch of conservative people, mostly conservative people that watch my show. They're like, Tommy's fucking it. And I'm like, no, I have to step outside of my own circle jerk echo chamber. I then have to go, is it? I kind of also think that the military industrial complex is just still in charge. Like, as
Oh yeah.
much as I think the DNC with like China, maybe maybe betraying America, maybe just temporary aligning bedfellows took out Trump. The more I look at it, I'm like, what did Trump like? Let's forget, what actually happened. Let's just really boil it down. Trump gave him a really big budget. That was great, but no new wars. What is Biden doing? He's not doing a gut. He let Roe v. Wade get overturned under his presidency. Say what you
That's what I'm
want.
saying.
That like
Exactly.
that happened, but we got out of the Middle East. Okay, in February, we need $30 billion. They don't give a shit whether we're manufacturing the javelins that a bunch of Midwest farmer boys are launching, or whether it's going to a bunch of Azov Battalion Nazis. The fucking check clears the same.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm right there with you. I think and it's crazy because like you said, take yourself out of like, I have to separate what I do professionally and what I do politically. And it always hits me after like a long day's work of being on like an operations floor scenario or being in a skip rifle. Man, I haven't seen sunlight in 9 hours. And I walk out, I'm like, man, I learned a lot today. We did a lot of great work. The mission was good. Like we cleaned up a lot. Like everything was great. And then I'll go turn on the TV and I'll be like, wait a minute, that same industrial complex, it's like the functionality on an operations basis on a tactical level 90% of the time the military is doing the right thing and like preserving exactly what it's supposed to be as an institution. It's just at the top of that institution you have like when they want to flex, when they want to do extra, icing on the cake stuff, and it's sort of being inverted that it's like, and you're seeing this in the recruiting base because all of the fathers of these kids that are turning 18, 19, 20 now are of the generation you said. You're like, man, if they saw combat experience in Iraq or they lost a leg in Iraq, like a place that, because like if you're Afghanistan, sure, I can even play along with some like Northern Africa things. If depending on what the scenario is, like, look, man, you're fighting for your country, totally get it. There's no business being in Iraq or Syria.
yeah.
So it's like so those guys are having kids now, and you're seeing the recruiting numbers down, and you're seeing like a whole generation of people that like you kind of made me think of this when you brought up the Midwest, but it's usually like the Scotch Irish of Appalachia that sends its kids off to facilitate whatever the infantry is of this generation. Like you name your war, they make up the core of like Marines, Army, and then you're even getting into sailors that come from like the Midwest and just the breadbasket of America, the middle America. Those people are reluctant to even sign up now because like, oh, it's kind of woke, not a huge deterrent, but they can get around it if their family's been in the military for 5 generations. And it's like, well, I can kind of see my way around that. And then it's like, well, my dad told me not to enlist because he has all these crazy psyop conspiracy theories about Iraq, but I still want to enlist because, this is a 5 generation thing. But when you start to snowball all of these things, now it's like, well, you also need a COVID shot. And he's like, we don't really do that. And my town doesn't really believe in those things. No one in my neighborhood has COVID shots. Like we don't think we should be doing it. When you start adding in all of these ingredients, you're dismantling the feeder base for your institution. It's like those people don't want to participate in the bigger game anymore. So the response to that is always as bad as it always is. It's get more woke. No, like we'll just do a new marketing campaign. We'll create a space force. Like they don't learn from this lesson that's unfolding in front of them to think that maybe they should, conserve some traditional elements of what they need to maintain to at least have the veil of these institutions resembling what they used to be. But no, I think people are the reverberation from all of these antics that we talked about at the top of the conversation and all of the cockiness and the haughtiness of some of the usual suspects is happening with the recruiting numbers, and they're really, really bad. And people re-enlisting, and this is all just public information. I think most branches still publish, but I think some are not even publishing their recruitment numbers, and they're throwing crazy bonuses out there. So they can't even get people in the door anymore. And it's so sad because it's like people should be proud of being in the military.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I try to like, so it's like really zoom out, again, kind of back to the podcast when I feel like it's really not going anywhere. Yeah, the huge episodes are a great dopamine hit, but I keep data every day. I keep like 50 columns of data, and I've been doing it for almost 1,000 days. And I'll have to look back every once in a while when I just like feeling bummed. I'll just take today's date and then I'll scroll up to a year ago, and I'll be like, oh, holy shit. Like things have not that they've gone up tenfold. And I'll be like, oh, that huge episode that's responsible for only 1% of it. And so I zoom out and I go, let's like look at Afghanistan, or not Afghanistan, Vietnam. I mean, how unpopular was that, right? The last huge draft war. I mean, soldiers coming home in body bags that were padded with heroin, soldiers smoking pot, using shotguns as bongs. I mean, the Phoenix program, CIA organized terror. Like we did kind of turn around from that. I would say where we are now is not as black pilled as that. So like it's not always a one-way slope downhill. I'm not saying where we are is good right now. It's pretty
Yeah.
bad. I mean, there's a 4-star admiral with a dick that wears makeup. Like in the same proud place that had like, that had the fucking, had the Marines and the Navy deploying through the island hopping campaign. Like you think about like the Mighty Mo or think of like Nimitz or something. You have that same thing just being tread on by these people, right? So, and then you got to get a shot that makes your heart inflame and explode. And people are going, I don't. And then you have guys like Dale Comstock, Delta Force, that comes on here all the time, who's like, yeah, no, don't join. It's bad, but it's from our own history, not even postulating. I look at Vietnam and I go, if you're in Vietnam at the time, you're looking all around you. Think about it. When did Vietnam start? 65?
Yep.
You're 20 years removed from World War II. Like the most patriotic nation, right? 425,000 American deaths. We beat the fucking Japanese and the literal Nazis. 20 years later, not even Vietnam starting. Not only is Vietnam starting, think about where we are right now, going like, this is the white pill in me. Think about them.
Yeah.
They're going, these motherfuckers are riding around in vans. They got hair down to their ass. They're having free love. Like you're what? You're fucking in the streets. You're
Yeah.
you're going to Woodstock covered in mud, peace and love, man. What the fuck? And then they still pulled off a draft war. So like it's weird right now, but I don't think the jump from like me growing up in the 90s to a bunch of kids with like blue mohawks now saying that they identify as a fox, although that's crazy, it's not as absurd as like literally coming back, and like kissing the nurse in Times Square to 20 years later, your kid has like, he's like, joining a cult with John Lennon. Like that's a bigger jump than where we are now. So that gives me some like, hey, every dad thinks their teenage son's retarded, and then by the time they reach 30, they go, he'll figure it out. He's an okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for that rant. But
it's no. You're good. These things are just like manic CIA agent energy going both ways. So we're gonna keep doing this. But no, I think you're right. The ebb and flow constantly exists, but it's getting so extreme. And like we kind of did the wrong thing early on, and it's very gay to do when you stick to. And I was guilty of this earlier in the conversation, where if you have conversations within the preordained institutional lens, we've already fallen victim to the process, because we need to zoom out a little bit. And most of the issues that we're talking about are cultural and social issues that just happen to insidiously, and MK Ultra as well. Like they naturally happen, then they get pushed into organizations. They're not inherently anything to do with the military. None of what we talked about is the flaw of any of these institutions. It's because they're being hoisted upon these institutions and forced in pretty much every opening. So it's not like the military inherently. It's our cultural issues that have gone a little bit too far, and they just use those to rev up whatever they need to mobilize and galvanize. So if that's a war in Ukraine, they're going to say it's because they're actual Nazis, and Vladimir Putin is trying to take over Europe, and this is for LGBTQ rights in Ukraine, and all of these things are upside down, inverted, it's always the opposite of that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is we need to kind of zoom out from the institution itself and realize that it really goes back to like the cultural issues that we have. And when you have the father of the next generation be like, man, my kid's not that bad, or like, it's like, the analogy you gave, every generation says that about every generation. But when that's gone too far off the rails, there's no coming back from that. So like, I think we're seeing it as part of, I don't know if it's the MAGA movement or the new conservatives or whatever it might be, this nationalist populist movement. We're kind of skipping the boomer generation and saying, man, the boomers fucked things up for so long, and Gen X kind of fucked things up too, and we let that happen. We're going to skip back to the greatest generation, like World War II, actually beat out, actually defend the world, and go back to that. And sort of, at least with me, I kind of was just like, look, let's wipe the 20th century or the last 100 years or so and go back to when this was actually a country and start from there, and kind of, do the autopsy, the self-analysis as a nation, and figure out what the hell went wrong. So that's what I'm getting out of the new right culturally. I don't know how effective it's going to be. I don't know if we've gone too far, but I think that's healthier than going down these rabbit holes and pigeonholing yourself in these institutions. Like, how do we fix the Air Force? How do we fit? Like, you're fighting a ridiculous battle. Like, it needs to be won on the cultural side, and all of these things are downstream of culture. And what we're beginning to learn through people like DeSantis in Florida, and a lot of the silver lining from COVID, is that you can legislate morality. You can legislate your way out of some of these things. So we used to always be like, well, politics is downstream of culture. It's like, well, it doesn't really have to be. Like, we can go back to what worked and put those laws on the books, and then that's the law. You can move to a different state if you don't like it. So I think Florida's been a good petri dish for returning to just common sense, especially with COVID. And if we can somehow take that energy, if DeSantis is the guy, and apply that to the federal system and apply it to and hopefully work its way through DC and into some of the executive and get past some of the elements of the deep state, then we could be looking at a functional country. I just don't know if that window's closed by now. I don't know if it's too late.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta go pee real quick. Can you hold it
Yeah.
down?
Yep. Do you think? Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna investigate the Iranian protest.
Have they blown up any bombs yet? I think Andy's muted. That, or when I went to the bathroom, they fucking detonated. Let's see if he's still here.
Well, give me 1 second. I'm taking a break.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're good. Well, for anybody listening, I'll hold it down. Yeah. So anyone that regularly listens knows that's how I kind of try to view this. Is, do I really think that we have a harder time now than at any point in human history? Or not even human history, American history. Like, it ain't good, but I mean, I look at getting into medical school. Building this podcast is hard. Fighting censorship is hard. Learning how to turn it into a profitable venture is hard. I don't think I could see it getting there, but as of now, it was still harder to get into medical school. Or, personal traumas. I've had a lot of panic attacks this year from that concussion. Oh, he's back.
I'm back. No, keep going though, because I was listening to you, and I love,
Uh,
frankly, I love hearing these stories. I love
okay.
when you do these deep dives.
So I mean, so I look at anything in my own life. Like, so any analogies I try to use, like instead of doing like a postulation, like what if, I always try to go like, what have we literally seen in history, right?
Right.
There's a lot of great lessons from nature because it's just been repeating every day for 4 billion years. So I mean, I look at like earlier this year, I got way too fucked up. I was actually with Dale, the Delta Force guy, and
Okay.
I fell in this hole, and it was like 2 a.m. I was like walking through this garden, and I didn't realize there was this hole, and I fell in it, and I hit my head on a brick. I was bleeding all down my head, and I was like, "Am I gonna die?" And Dale was like, "You're not gonna fucking die." And I was like, "All right." And so like I was fine for 2 days, then woke up like vomiting, couldn't see straight, had a concussion, had to go to the ER, get a CT scan. Then they gave me some drug called droperidol, and it gave me a literal 72-hour panic attack where I thought I was
Jeez.
losing my mind. And then I had to wear these fucking sunglasses for like 2 weeks inside, couldn't do podcasts, and it took like another month before I could like fluently pull up information in my head. And then
Jesus.
yeah, and then I really cracked it. And then every Thursday, between Thursday and Saturday, every week for about 3 months, would have not anxiety, but like a panic attack to like, I'm one button away from like calling 911, like just every week and like clockwork. And then finally, I had such a bad one about a month ago that I just like woke. It was like a religious moment. I was like, I have to declare total war on this
Yep.
and just like completely cut out alcohol. I've lost 19 pounds. I've just been
Jesus.
working out like a motherfucker. I've done like 40 podcasts this month. I'm just like, I went and like got an apartment. I'm moving up closer to family next month. I'm just like balls in, like change everything in your life that sucks. And I look at that and I go, man, from May to September was really difficult. And then I go, what about in April 2014 when you lost your brother to suicide? And I go, oh yeah. I go, this was a walk in the park. So
Yeah.
just like that, I try to go harder to get into medical school than build this. I have to remember that. Harder to get through my brother than these last 4 months of panic attacks. Yeah, okay, I can do this. So I try to go, where have we been before?
Yeah.
Like, not just like World War II. I mean, I always bring this up. You got to think of just how insane JFK getting popped was. It's
It was
aside from
insane.
the fact it was a president,
Yeah.
it was a year after the Cuban Missile Crisis, less than a year after the Soviets detonated a 58 megaton thermonuclear warhead. It's during the space race. Vietnam really hasn't even. We're sending advisors over. They're protesting at the Pentagon at the height of it all. It did not. What 2 years after Bay of Pigs, the president gets popped,
Yep.
and we got through it. It wasn't pretty, but we got through it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I think it goes back to, and I was thinking about this the other day. It's crazy that you said we just waged this war, total war. The majority of our discussion was 30,000 foot up and looking at these institutions and how do you do them from the top down. Really, if everyone's waging this low key under the radar personal war on themselves and self improvement, and just knowing that when shit does hit the fan, you're like, oh man, I'm so prepped for this. There's money in the bank. There's food here. Like, we have this situated. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm in the best spiritual, plane of my life. I'm good with my family. I'm good with however this goes. You're fine. And if
Mm-hmm.
there are enough people doing that, that might be what it is that when the scales do tip, and economically, and there's some situations where we're almost kind of there, where people are fucked up right now. So this is the time to do that and gear up and really just work between the ears. And you don't have to do it in a group. You don't have to do it on this. It's certainly not a political party is going to get us there. So I think if there's enough strong individuals that are prepped when the time comes, you're like, man, I've seen it worse, and maybe this is worse than I've ever seen it, but I'm so prepped for this
Mm-hmm.
that nothing's going to be able to beat even if that's 10%, 15% of people out there. Those are going to be the leaders of that generation or whatever's left. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we also have to kind of think of it that way. So I'm glad you segued into that.
Oh, and he just disappeared. I hope that parade didn't bomb. Maybe he accidentally hit a button. We'll message him. He just disappeared. He just vanished. I imagine he'll be rejoining us any second. What was that? He just disappeared. Is it my internet? I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Yeah, my internet's working. He literally just vanished. It's a segue. Just did they detonate? I hope they didn't. I was kind of memeing earlier. I'm kind of hoping that wasn't just a fucking bomb going off. Um. Hmm. This is the hardest part of the podcast. What I'm doing right now, not getting guests, not in anything else. It's a brief moment where I'm trying to reestablish contact with the guest and also monologue to keep the podcast live. This is the hardest part. Well, I messaged him. Maybe he'll reappear. I'll keep talking. I think he brought up some very important points. And it's about. It does seem to be more of like a groundswell thing. Like the Republican Party isn't coming to save you. The Democratic Party isn't coming to save you. Joe Kent's not coming. I love Joe Kent. I think he's an incredible American and an incredible person. He's not coming to save you. I mean, no one's coming to save you. No one's going to make the podcast work. Dr. McCullough is not going to get me on Joe Rogan. No one's going to do anything for you. And when you apply that to life, that's where I think things start to change around. Is when so like the panic attacks. Instead of thinking, I just got to get on the right medication, or I need more medical help. I need to go to the doctor. I need to fucking have my brain scanned every day, or I'll feel better when the podcast makes $1 million. Instead, you eventually just you kind of go off this precipice. You kind of go off this edge of a cliff, and you go, I have to fix this. This is so bad, right? It's when you're at a bar downtown with your friends and you're trying to get like one of your buddies to leave. They're like, dude, let's just go home. Dude, let's go play some video games. He doesn't want to go. The next person doesn't want to go. The next person, you finally hit a point where you're kind of in a bar and you're doing the whole head nod thing. And you just kind of hear like the crowd, that sort of crowd background noise that always makes you fall asleep. And then you finally it just hits you and you go, I'm just walking home. I'm not telling anyone I'm leaving. I don't give a shit about the after party. I'm going. I'll pay the tab and I'm leaving. I don't care if I don't have an Uber. I'm walking home. That or like when I realized I had to stop partying when I was living in a frat house. I was like, it took me like a couple days of like trying to convince other people like we should study hard because college is almost over and this is fun, but we're gonna want to have good jobs. About a week into it, I realized I was like, no one's changing. Stop trying to like save the frat house. Clean your own room. Not to sound like Jordan Peterson. Work out and get good grades. Stop trying to justify it. Stop trying to rationalize it. Stop trying to show anybody else the big picture. You know what you have to do and do it. And don't bank on anyone to help you get good grades. Your roommates are loud, get earplugs. Next year, move out. Don't live with those roommates. You're doing poorly in class. Don't bitch about the fact you have an 8 a.m. class. Change your sleep schedule. Get up earlier. Be ready. Or nap after. Just you start owning it. And when you really know what you have to do, you do it. And every time in my life I've done that, it's kind of like what Brian Reagan, the comedian, said about like the butterflies in your chest. Because whenever you have butterflies in your chest, go forward with whatever it is you're doing. Because the best things in life always come after that. Asking out the girl, applying to the badass job, you know, taking the leap, moving to the new apartment, getting the puppy, you know, having a sit down talk with your parents about something that's bothering you, or burying the hatchet and fixing an old grudge with a friendship, whatever it is. Sneaking out with alcohol and going to your first concert when you're 16. the butterflies always precede the best things in life. And maybe on a much kind of darker way, now that I'm painting that, I realized that the greatest moments, or the greatest, not moments, the greatest eras of the greatest things I've ever achieved in life are preceded by 2 to 4 years of insanely hard work. And that insanely hard work is always preceded by a terrible moment that just shocks me into action. So when I look at like the joy of getting into medical school, the just feeling of accomplishment, having the girlfriend and like, no, like I've got a great life ahead of me. I'm going to be a doctor. I found the woman I love. Like family's proud. I'm proud. That was preceded by 3 years of just existential horror and anxiety, studying every day and worrying, which was preceded by smoking way too much pot one night in the frat house on my 20th birthday, August 7th, 2010, in Valdosta, Georgia, and realizing that, oh, I'm already a sophomore in college. I gotta work hard. It was, I don't remember what preceded weightlifting. I think I was playing basketball in middle school and then like was just getting shoved around too much or something. It was like, I just want to work out. Um, Andy is alive. Um, I don't know if he'll rejoin or not. Um, Even this podcast, had a terrible. Oh, here he is. So the bad things are always precede great things. He's back. What happened?
So they didn't detonate. I'm in one piece.
All right. Well, I wasn't sure. I checked my internet, and then
Rookie mistake. I thought my phone was charging the entire time. It was not.
I literally Googled Washington D.C. I was like, I hope there wasn't a flash above D.C. I was like, God damn it.
Well, I hope we can reconcile that with the feed. Can you do some fancy editing there?
Oh, I just monologued the whole thing. It
Okay,
was
great.
seamless. I've learned how to do it by now. You just gotta
Beautiful.
have that. But even that is a perfect little example of what we were just talking about. When
Yep.
when you're ready, that's why before, and I always say this is, and I've learned by now not to get shitty guests, but since podcast one, it is non-negotiable. 8 hours of sleep, followed by a mile on the treadmill, 30 minutes at the gym, shower, shave, clean clothes, brush your teeth,
You're
meditate.
going to work. Yep.
Every day, and I'm always every morning I listen to 2 hours of an audiobook at 2x speed, 7 days a week. So I'm always full of information. I'm clear-headed from a meditation. I'm fresh and jumped up from an exercise, and I sleep well. So no matter if the guest sits there and just clams up and just yes, no, yes, I can just fill the hour with just yelling about, like, I'm reading a book about FDR. Did you know? So the fact that internet just cut out, it was ready to go. But that's a perfect example right there.
While we're on it, what's your meditation schedule looking like right now? Every day?
I have every day from 2008 until now. I stopped for like 2 years when my brother died. It just threw me into such a loop. And that was the worst 2 years of my life. And I got back into it. It's every day. I go for 30 minutes. I've
There.
tried, I've tried every technique under the sun. And about 2 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago, after 12 years, which was 2 years ago, I finally realized, I was like, none of these methods like are reproducible. Like sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So now I just sit there, and whatever happens happens. And sometimes it's like a beautiful, like merging with the oneness of all creation and like unity and love with God. Other times you just kind of come out of it and you're like, I don't feel any different.
Yeah,
But I do it
I'm
every
with you.
day.
I'm with you. And it depends on where you're at that week and what you have going on. But I really think the goal is to not have it be so up and down. I mean, you want to get better at meditation like anything, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm getting better.
Have you read Becoming Supernatural?
No.
It's really good. It's about the topic of getting, just making it so cookie cutter that every time you're ready to go. And we just applied it to all these other areas. But if you like essentially applying that logic to meditation so that you can come, 4 out of 5 of those are pretty clairvoyant, and you know what to expect, rather than being not let down, but like, oh, I didn't really meditate. I just sat there. I couldn't really focus, or I
Yeah.
couldn't really not focus. But yeah, it's really good. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I always like asking people where they're at, but a half hour a day, huh?
Well, I've found that, so like what I've found is that the most like reproducible good results I get are the half hour a day. That's probably closer to 4 out of 5, maybe even 6 out of 7. Is I've just found that, I think Alan Watts said it best about meditation. He's like, meditation, he's like, doing a technique is like trying to flatten water with your hands. He's like, you're just gonna rile it up all the more. Instead, it's like, seeing like a little puddle, like a rain puddle with dirt in it, and it's all cloudy. He goes, if you just don't touch it, it settles. And so what I found is that the first 10 minutes is just me going over, am I working
I
out enough? Am I watching my diet? Am I saving money? Am I working on the podcast? Am I growing spiritually and not falling into just the cycle of, oh, I want to drink, or I want to take Xanax, or I want to smoke pot?
Yeah.
And my mind just goes over those 5 things. And then after that, it zooms out a little more, and it's like, are you close enough with your family? Are you making sure to be grateful for everyone alive? And it normally happens around minute 20, that it's like I've checked all the boxes, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, here I am. What is this? What am I? Which is then followed by, I can't help but I just, like, a smile always comes across my face, where I'm really just like, what is this? What is what is this? And I don't mean the whole, well, 13.8 billion years ago there was a big, no, fuck off. I know, yeah, and there's a planet around it. I don't give a shit. What is this?
Yeah.
There's not nothing.
We need more leaders focusing on meditation, or even broaching the topic of meditation. I
Yeah.
don't know if I've heard of an elected official or anyone like a general or anything like that. I mean, you'll hear some of the great generals of the past, like Alexander the Great, Hitler, not so much, but he was a leader to some extent. Ran a continent. Napoleon. All these people focused on like the sort of the middle of the earth, the Himalayas, that region. They know there's just this esoteric energy
Yeah.
emanating from there, but they haven't really articulated it into meditation. It'd be interesting to see if that um, would pick up. Maybe Marianne Williamson's the only
I
politician that comes to mind that's talked about meditation. But it's crazy because these guys and most Fortune 500 CEOs and all these successful people and just normal people meditate. It's hard to believe that couldn't improve the lifestyle of everyone on an individual level. Why that's not pushed? Maybe it's faux pas against the traditional conservative Western mindset of you just have to be Christian, or that it would butt heads with that or something. But um,
to me,
that's something we need to open up. That's something we need to push from the West.
not even trying to sound like edgy or something, but I would
Yeah.
imagine if you meditated a ton, I would imagine like the last thing you'd give a shit about is like gaining power.
Yeah, that's true.
I
That's
could
probably
I
true.
could see like a Bezos or a Musk doing it, because they're manifesting their own creative. They're
Yeah.
like, I want to build this, my own philanthropy.
Yeah.
I would imagine that if you're really like, you can't come out of a meditation and be like, whose dick do I need to suck so that I can get an endorsement? Right? The last thing you'd
It's
give a
so
shit,
true.
you'd be like,
Yeah.
I am perfect in my own being. I don't need this. Yeah, I don't think I think that kind of, but I know I've kept you for an hour and a half, so
Yeah.
you go with like another 10 minutes or something, then we'll wrap up
Yeah,
at
I'm good
four.
with 10. We'll close it out.
All
We'll
right.
close it out.
All right. But back to the whole taking care of yourself. That is where I tend to think this is going. It's like that video I sent you by that DJ, Kira the Dawn, the Archaic Revival.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think and again, from my own experiences, I am going back into like who I was between 2010 and 2014 as a pre-med student. 8 hours of sleep, exercise, cardio, anaerobic, diet, meditate, go about my day. And by the end of college, I kind of drove myself away from that because I just associated it with doing something I didn't like, being pre-med. And for several years, I didn't do it. I was smoking pot, I was drinking all the time, and I hated it. It was miserable. And now I'm back to that like clean cut, and I've never been happier. And it's, so anybody that doesn't know, Terrence McKenna called it the archaic revival. When a society reaches a weird breaking point, it instinctively goes back into its own memory and finds a place in time where things worked, and it starts doing that again. And he talks about we reached the Middle Ages before what a bunch of Italian investment bankers reached back into the time of Periclean Athens 2,000 years prior and said, let's base our society on this. And that's what we call the Renaissance. There is evidence for it before of reaching back in time and taking it. And like what I did is I reached back to 2010 to 2013, Tommy, remove parts of it. So you don't need to be that rigid. Make sure to have fun. But that's what I'm living now. I think you said it earlier. Like, let's just call the last 75 years a wash. We all fucked up. I fucked up. You fucked up. We'll call it. I stole your weed. You stole my liquor. We'll call it even. Let's go back to a time, not even like Uncle Sam, but I mean, really, what was it? It was people who were self-sufficient. There was an intact nuclear family. There was families stayed close together. There were values. Doesn't mean that everyone was good. And there was an idea to a lot that came out of the Depression. So there's an idea of self-sufficiency, always have a food supply. Yeah, I think that's probably what we're going to head back to. And there's not going to be a candidate that does it. It's going to be personal crises.
It's going to be personal, and then you'll see the leaders come from whatever that
And that's well, yeah,
whatever that is. But no, I mean that's I'm getting the I'm getting yanked out of here too. I'm getting the nod. So
okay.
So we have to close out. But
Gotcha.
But no, let's remember that moving forward for the next podcast, because I think we should. I think we need to stick with that topic in terms of masculinity and what the man's responsibility is within that family. And society and neighborhood. There's an idea there, if you grow it just outside of the home, to localism, which I think is like becoming back in step. It's back in style. COVID definitely is a silver lining of COVID, that people are starting to care about their schools. When was the last time you heard people with election swing because of what was happening in a school? So an entire state did, and you're seeing all these local elections, and you're seeing candidates emerge from just being like Trump MAGA moms, you know. So I think it's focusing on what's immediately intimate to you and around you and local to you, whether that's yourself, your family, or your community, and then fuck everything else. The rest of it's going to figure itself out. If you have those things, and those are immovable and those are strong, that's where the tenets are. It's not the bigger pick. Government's not going to save us, and the elected officials certainly won't. So let's definitely dive into that the next time we talk.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry. I think I was pretty jacked up this episode. I'm sorry for I think I cut you off more times than I normally cut
I don't
people
care.
off.
It's the thing is that the problem with us is that we just rant on each other.
Starts with what are they doing out there, and it just ends with, oh, he just got kicked off again. So we'll wrap that one up on that. His connection just cut out. Well, so point is, everybody, you just cut out. I'll wrap it up. The point is I don't think it's going to be a top-down thing. I think enough people are going to come into their own, hit their own speed bumps and their own hurdles, and start to take care for themselves. And it's not going to be affiliated with right or left. It's going to be, I need a home that I can afford to heat and cool with my own food source, and a school where they're not teaching them that beautiful women have balls. And then that will, ironically, it's like what Ram Dass said, the second you stop trying to have power, you have more power than you've ever wanted. The second I stopped giving a shit about the MCAT is when my score jumped by like 80%. I think the second everyone starts taking care of themselves and their own mental health and their own relationship with God, the creator, the universe, whatever you want, that is when the meta themes of society as a whole will start to appear great. And it won't be because anybody tried. Like, this podcast is really 8 hours of sleep, a mile on the treadmill, some weightlifting, a shower, a shave, a teeth brushing, clean clothes, meditation. The rest of it just grows from that. It's like a vinyl record. You put it on the thing, you drop the pin, and it just turns. Whatever music comes out from it comes out from it. I just do this thing, and a whole personality of the podcast rises from it. Individual atoms and molecules don't say, hey, let's create a steel girder, or let's create let's create some ferromagnetic fluid. They're all just doing their own behaviors. And then when 100 quintillion of them get together, we see a wrench or an apple or a mouse's foot. None of them are trying to do that. They all just have their own patterns. And in a meta sync, create something much larger. That's what I think it will be. It won't be a left or a right president. There'll be enough people coming to the brink through COVID or inflation or whatever, having lost someone in the global war on terror or been traumatized or scarred physically themselves. I think it will be a return to that. And then some greatness will arise from that. And then 50 years later, a bunch of people will try to take credit for it. But the reality was no one was doing it. It was a thing that happened. That's what I think it will be. Right? No one raindrop thinks it's responsible for the flood. But they all are. So, wrap this one up. I will link Andy's Twitter in the description. Andy's a cool fucking guy if you can't tell. He's in Space Force. That's cool as shit. And I think he's got a pretty grounded take on life. And I love having him on here. So, everybody, take care of yourselves. Much love. Treat each other with love. Literally all we have. And try meditation. What is this? What is it all? What is it? Peace.